Hello, hello, hello. I'm all ahead up in the screen today. Um, Welcome to day 76. Let's jump into it. Today is Deuteronomy 17 till 20. So a fairly longer one. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to tile my window so that I can see and y'all can see me. Um, and let's share my screen. It's a weird aspect ratio because he's a friendly. So Deuteronomy 17, Moses is talking about, again, sort of instructing them on how to live when they move into the land. He tells them to never sacrifice sick or defective cattle, sheep, or goats to the Lord your God, for he detests such gifts. I was wondering about this, and well, it's struck me how all of those sacrifices are to point to Christ, right? And so, if we're trying to maintain a pattern, or we are um, we're symbolically representing something, then it has to fit a certain standard. So it makes sense then that a sick or defective, offering doesn't meet the standard anymore, and that messaging is lost. And so God is like setting up rules around that. Um, and there's lots of talk of purging evil. So if someone's to consult mediums or practice sorcery, if someone's to worship um, stars, suns, or idols, they are to be put to death. And it sounds harsh. It's. I mean, it's very final, isn't it? It's very fatal to go against God in such manner. But it's again this idea of self-policing, right? And the consequences of these sins being so great, they should deter. They should deter. Now we've read a couple instances of people being stoned for sins. We've seen, the earth opening up and swallowing people. Um, I think it's. I think as I am thinking through this, I'm realizing on the one hand, I think modern like Western um, sensibilities have made us a lot more tolerant of sin, or see it as a lot less the the threat of death that it is. Right? These things are resulting in death because that is the wage of sin. The wages of sin is death, and so actually we shouldn't be as, or at least maybe I'm talking to myself here, but I should definitely not be as, oh, that's harsh. And I think that betrays maybe sometimes how I treat sin. Like, there's a flash of wrath here, or a white lie here, or, a bad word here. It's like we treat those, I find myself, I catch myself treating those as though they are minor things. Like it's not killing someone, it's not murder, it's not, infidelity, it's not like a big lie. But actually I think that betrays a a lack of understanding on what actually sin is. Like, it's death. And so that these things are resulting in death isn't harsh. It's the reality, right? It's the reality of what they're doing, and the consequences of what they're doing. Anyway, again, this whole idea of self-policing, I think, is really cool. Um, there's Moses set out the rules for like dealing with issues in court, and invoking judges and priests to sort of govern such proceedings. And then there's guidelines for taking a king, which foreshadows, what's to come, because eventually Israel do ask for a king. Um, but I think it's interesting that it's foreshadowed here because God wanted to be their king. God wanted to be um, their personal God, and it's like he's identifying early that eventually they're going to want someone else, you know. And so then it's something is coming doesn't stop it from hurting, right? Because excuse me, when they do, it hurts God. And Samuel shows as much, and we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, there's Moses gives rules for doing that. Sets up some rules for the Levites as well. Again, noting that the Levites don't receive land. The Levites, God is their possession. But the people are to take care of the Levites, and Moses sets up the rules around that. I've forgotten where it was, but there's a point when it's talking about the king, talks about the king should not take many wives, for they'll turn his heart away from God. Again, God is proved to not be a liar, because the wisest, again, we will get there. When we get there, we'll see the wisest had his heart turned away from God by many wives. And so, yeah. And then there's a note about prophets. Basically, if a prophet prophesies and it doesn't come to pass, he's a false prophet. But the real prophet should be listened to. And it's this idea of cities of refuge, places where if you commit an unintentional sin, you can flee to and be safe. It's like it's grace, right? It's an epitome of grace to be able to provide a safe haven for those that might have done some sort of mistake or might have cause to be wary, because we're self-policing. So there are these areas like demilitarized zones, if you will, that are made available to everyone. And it just speaks to the society that God is trying to build here. That's quite a powerful one. And chapter 19 sort of closes out with a call for love and justice and pursuing it. And then there are the regulations for war. And it's what we see with Gideon ends up being, I think, just an extreme of what is actually the Lord's approach, because they set up these rules that if you're going to war, if someone's bought a new house, if someone's recently married, if someone's recently planted some seed, they're allowed to get out of it. They're allowed to go and not fight. And then if anyone is scared or worried, they're allowed to not fight, because they don't. And these, mind you, these are all mostly armies that are going up against bigger armies. This is a nation going up against, more technologically advanced, more funded armies, and we're making exceptions for newlyweds. And further to that, we're making exceptions for people who are just outright scared, because it's not by their might, it's not by their numbers, it's by God's hand. And these rules really set up even an army that has to be reliant on God. And then there's the beautiful thing of always offer terms to the people, so that if they don't want to fight, then they don't have to fight. And if they do fight, you end it. And I like that. And they're told to not sort of waste, not make waste, as was likely the nature of war in the time where everything gets destroyed. But apart from those that God has specifically earmarked for destruction, the same that were sacrificing their kids, the same that were doing things that God considered detestable, Israel was not to behave in such manner. And so that's today's reading. Let's mark those read. And tomorrow is Deuteronomy 21 to 23. So, God willing, we'll be here. We'll talk about it. All right, peace.